Hello everyone, and this is me, GamePangan21, and today, well, let's talk about Legacy. Now, for those of you who may or may not know, Matt Pad of Game Theory is going to have his last Game Theory today, possibly later after I upload this video. But overall, I do want to say that, first and foremost, thank you, Matt Pat, for everything that you've done. You are an amazing person, and you have done a lot of things. And I know this video is not going to be the most positive version, but I wanted to talk about Legacy in general, and I just wanted to talk about it today because there's a couple things that I haven't had the time to sit down and think about. But today, I wrote out a script, kind of, that I'm going to be mostly reading off of, hopefully be able to get this all out. But gotta do the shilling. I'd like 1K subscribers by the end of the year, please. And thank you. You are all lovely individuals, and I think that you helping me get to this milestone would be a great amount of help. Number 2, my music and stuff, links to everything down in the description. My most recent one that I released last week should be up by the time that I'm talking about this. I forget if it's up on the Bandcamp. I know it's up on YouTube, so give it a minute. And number 3, and most importantly, I do stream on Twitch every weekend. Or mostly every weekend. Check the Twitch, YouTube in that context. So today, So today, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the positive impacts of the internet, and that what is good to talk about, but there will also be a stark comparison into some of the current events that has been talking about, both positive and negative. I made a shorts video on this a while back when Matt Pat himself, or Matthew Patrick, announced his remaining 10 theories, but I think that this video I want to be scripted, and I wanted to actually talk more about this and give it off as an interesting comparison to some of the things that have been happening around a company by the name of Sweet Baby Inc. But we'll start with the positives. If you've been living under a rock and you have no idea who I'm talking about, Matthew Patrick, aka Matt Pat of Game Theory, Style Theory, Food Theory, and Film Theory, was one of the biggest, has one of the biggest impacts on everything to do with YouTube and the theorist community in general. But as of at least the time of me recording this, he is recording his last videos and is stepping down from the theory channels, all 4 of them. And he's handing them off to 4 individuals who will be the theorist hosts going forward. And he had one of his last game theories on FNAF and was talking about Legacy. And to me, Matt Pat's Legacy is incredible. The amount of people and lives that he's affected, including my own, is insane. And probably incalculable, the amount of people that he will help going forward. Because he was the one who kind of kickstarted a lot of theory crafting and theory building and stuff like that. He was the one who went forward to try to make some sort of education, and started out as a theater person. And now he's going on to make plays and stuff himself. After, I think, around 13 years. It was like 10 to 13 years. I forget specifically. I think it's about 10 years. At least. At minimum. And he just created such a big, important impact on everyone that he's talked about and everyone he's talked to. Giving people jobs, talking to people, making people have their voices heard and stuff like that. It is quite interesting. Now, the biggest thing that a lot of people would be talking about when it comes to Matt Pat's legacy is how his legacy will be upheld moving forward. And to make a more weirder comparison, and that, or a more closer comparison, there was also another person that has had this, that they have had a major internet TV show or major internet show, and they spent years building it up, and then finally took the step away to work on other projects, and that was Ray William Johnson. Now, the thing with Ray William Johnson versus MatPat is, I think that there's a bit of a difference here, because Ray and his whole team that he built up was in a different state of YouTube when they transferred ownership to the other person, or their hosts, to try to get the channel back up to its usual standards, and it kind of worked for a while, but eventually the show had to be kind of not made. Now, I think that to me is going to be the biggest problem going forward, and that will inevitably get the ball rolling and inevitably be the biggest question as to how people will take the people that were there. But MatPat is different, or at least I'd like to hope that his situation is mildly different. Because yes, he is handing off all of the channels to different people, to different hosts, to talk to a bunch of the theories and stuff going forward, because he's been the face of game theory for forever. But the difference here is that, again, the creator has been more humanized, I guess, and there's been a lot more community and stuff, and I just hope that will be there. And I find it funny how I said that was going to be a script here. I have not read a lot of this script, so I am just so upset with myself that I wrote this out. But I have faith that he will make the right choices and not be hasty with it. Now, what does this all have to do with a company called Sweet Baby Inc. and gaming specifically? Well, recently, again, if you haven't been paying attention or you want just like constantly talking about this stuff around the corner, there's a situation where employees of Sweet Baby Inc. decided to launch a hate campaign against an individual who was using public information off of their website and talking about their games and their involvements with games called Sweet Baby Inc. Detected. Now, that had the Streisand effect, where it had the exact opposite of what they wanted it to, and they actually got more eyeballs onto the group, and they've grown stupidly fast because of it. And there's even like interviews and other people that we're talking about that can go into more detail about deleted tweets and stuff like that. And it is just very much so incredibly just dumb. And I do want to make an entire full-fledged video on this, but again, we're just kind of scraping the top of the iceberg a little bit here. Now, the reason why I bring these two up is because of the sense that recently gaming has been seemingly going downhill. Mainly in the AAA space seems to have a lot of problems with budgetary constraints, the stories and things kind of suffering, and even places in the gameplay department suffering, all because, supposedly, about this company. Now, I don't want to blame Sweet Baby Inc. entirely. I do want to blame more the corporatization of gaming as a general, but again, that's an entirely separate video, an entirely separate topic for that itself. But not all the games that are like made or created are importantly bad, because there are games in the AA space and even indies that have seen massive successes, such as Pal World, Helldivers 2, Baldur's Gate 3, and Elden Ring, just to name a few. And I know some people would say, oh, well, Elden Ring is actually AAA. It's like, that's a bit of a gray area in terms of that. But again, it goes to show you that these games that were once very niche and very small when they got the correct push and the correct backing from the right people at the right time, that creates a legacy. And that's one of the things that Sweet Baby Inc. themselves have been doing kind of behind the scenes since 2018. Now, a lot of people have been saying that gaming has been going down recently. At least some people can point to around 2018 when those kinds of pushes were making the industry go down a dark and stormy path. And again, you can make connections to places like Gamergate and places like bad video game stuff and places like this and places like that. And to say that Sweet Baby is a part of all of that and say that they are not the problem, again, it's one of those things where it's very gray when you're talking stuff like this. And the same thing has happened in other industries when they tried to reach out to this quote-unquote wider audience. Because, again, the whole point of Sweet Baby Inc. is to try to go and make sure that everyone's included and everyone is... It's not as offensive, it doesn't push out a bad message, and tries to represent everyone. But to kind of quote Syndrome here from The Incredibles, where he says, "When everyone's super, no one will be." Which, yeah, when everything is one thing, and when everything is right and just, why is it that people have problems keeping that right and just? Again, to kind of speak more in movie quotes, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain, and that's what Sweet Baby Inc. I think is doing. Again, you've probably heard so much about Sweet Baby Inc. and so much about their problems and about their people that were around them and about how quote-unquote woke they are, and so I'm not going to bore you with any of that here. But what's my opinion on this whole Sweet Baby Inc. thing? To make a long story short, Sweet Baby Inc. is kind of the result of what feminist frequency and some of that woke ideology kind of is. Now, for me, I have always said that I am not against representation. But I want one thing when it comes to representation. I want good representation. And a lot of people be like, oh, well, representation of itself is good. It's like, no. That's not correct. Representation is, to me, taking a topic, a very serious topic, and molding it to where it doesn't sound preachy, to where it's inviting to talk about, and to where it is maybe will offend some people, but the vast majority of people will understand where you are coming from. It is a representation devoid of any stigma or stereotypes. It is a representation that understands what it means to represent a group and what it means to represent the legacy of that group when seriously talking about that. To go back to game theory, MatPat made sure that the team and the people around him were ready and willing to take on the massive undertaking of taking over the channels from him. He made sure to train and to have them understand where they were coming from and how to fix and understand those problems. Sweet Baby Inc. doesn't do that for a number of reasons, because it is hard to say specifically why inclusivity has gone this far off the rails. And to some extent, it's not really the worst thing in the world to have more representation, more talking about the issues and things of that nature. But we don't like to be preached at. We don't like to be talked down to, made us the bad guys. Whatever that may seem to you. And Sweet Baby Inc., to me, seems like they're talking down to all of the gamers and all of the people that are just trying to make sure that their favorite form of art, their favorite form of pastime isn't ruined, legacy-wise, by anything like this. I think an interesting quote that comes from one other place, that being a show called Duckman. Now, in this context, they were talking about comedy, but the quote itself is so powerful that you can really apply it to a lot of things. To read you a little bit of an excerpt from this, you just think you like him because you were tricked into it by him, King Chicken. They do it the same way they sell us car wax, rough car wax movies, even politicians, all prepackaged, unoffensive, most appealing alternative. But it's exactly when humor is offensive that we need it most. It should blast through prejudices, challenge preconceptions. Comedy should always leave you different than when it found you. Sure, comedy can hurt, even alienate, but the risk is better than the alternative. A bunch of childproof, flavorless mush demands to be challenged, to be offended, to be treated like thinking, reasoning adults, and raise your children to do the same. That quote has always stuck with me ever since I heard Nostalgia Critic and whenever I looked up the quote after the fact, because it applies so much to today's society, today's everything, because comedy has been under constant scrutiny and constant mismanagement and processing. It's hard to completely erase the history of bad and disgusting stuff because it will always be remembered and talked about by some people. But at the same time, talking about it, being offended by it, but changing the ways that you perceive it and the ways that you talk about it and the ways that you will fix it by meanings, it's like when you start to get to the fix point is when people start to get lost. Because fixing things that you were not involved in or fixing problems that you didn't cause is a never-ending battle that you will constantly lose. But overall, what a legacy can do is teach us the importance of moving forward. Teach us where we were and how far we've come from that point in our lives, from that point in history, to see how far things have gotten. It's not impossible to say that Sweet Baby has had a very negative impact and a very negative legacy going forward on gaming, because they have had their hands in so many different failures, pies, and other stuff that it is just impossible to see how much of an impact that they've had because they want to keep themselves secret. And again, that's in stark contrast to MatPat, who has inspired a bunch of the actual people to rise and to create their own theories and to talk and to make those sorts of plans and things important. Now, I think that'll end it off with just reading from the actual script because this is ridiculous. So, yeah. In any case, thank you for everything, MatPat. You will be missed, but you will do better things, and your legacy will be remembered for years and years to come. And to Sweet Baby Inc., your legacy will forever be tainted because you tried to mess with an art form that you had no idea how to make or how to really understand what it means to have a legacy, to have the actual impact positively on the people around you. Now, I know this is a long, ranty video, so I'm not going to leave you with too much other than the fact that I didn't read much of that script. And I'm going to be honest, I was kind of rambly and talky, but sometimes you just got to talk about stuff like that. But yeah, that'll about do it for this video. If you like what it is that I want to do and want to support me in any way, shape, or form, links to all socials and stuff like that down in the description. New music and stuff will come out soon. I think I will look to be releasing mixtape 5 coming out in sometime in the summer. But that's at least a couple months away, so give me time. My Ode to Friday Nights, links down in the description. 1K subscribers by the end of the year is my goal. I really, really appreciate it and would really, really like that I'm making that push, and I feel like we can do it. And, of course, Twitch, links to the description. And once again, I do want to thank you so very much for taking the time to listen to me talk about something that I am passionate about. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching again. And a peace. Off.